It's 11:16 now on midday, and we're back with our weekly walk back through time. This week, we look back on the Tonawanda turnout and the start of when you had to start plunking down a 5-cent deposit on beverage containers. Dave McKinley remembers when those stories and more were all news to you.
10 years ago this week, state and local officials were all agog and tripping over themselves with excitement when a company called Alito wanted to revive the local steel industry by bringing 172 high-paying jobs to a new $100 million factory it proposed building in South Buffalo.
It's like the perfect example of how it's coming together for Western New York.
We're going to be seeing construction jobs right up front. We're going to be seeing long-term jobs and the money that goes around this.
Except we would see none of it. Alito wanted to produce well casings for fracking and other products for the oil and gas industry. A year later, Governor Cuomo saw to it to ban fracking in New York. The state launched a pattern of policies against fossil fuels, which continue today. Alito never came, nor did the promise of all those jobs and economic prosperity predicted by politicians this week in 2013. 20 years ago this week, New York's junior senator was Hillary Rodham Clinton, and she was speaking about an issue that is still very much in the news some 2 decades later: border security.
Border security is ultimately a federal responsibility. If they're not doing it, then we just have to raise our voices and make sure they know we're not satisfied. And I will, do everything I can to try to get the resources we need as soon as possible.
Back then, we were still taking in a lot of New York City's trash, trainloads of it, bound for area landfills, but which would sometimes stay on sidings, stinking up the east side. 30 years ago this week, the Reverend Al Sharpton, well, a more youthful and robust-looking version of the Reverend Al Sharpton, came to Buffalo to opine on what most ailed inner-city neighborhoods.
He calls it black-on-black crime.
Is just as much a threat to Dr. King's dream as any hooded Klansman or any skinhead could ever be.
His frank opinions, though,
We do it to ourselves.
were not welcome by all.
Get somebody out here to really stop this stuff.
Oh, and the smart people in charge here at Channel 2 took a flyer on a gal from North Tonawanda, and hiring her away from a Buffalo radio station turned out to be a pretty good move. Happy news to you, 30th anniversary, Mary Alice Demler. On your side now for 3 decades since this week in 1993. 40 years ago this week, all eyes were skyward for the construction of a new building in Buffalo. This week's News to You pop quiz. Look carefully now. What do you think we're erecting here? I'll give you one hint. It's a medical facility. The topping off ceremony for which was held this week in 1983. Remember, this was back when construction was also going on below the ground on the Tonawanda turnout, the key to a planned extension of the Metro Rail. Built at a cost of $1 million, it was never used, and today remains a dead-end stub beneath Main Street near Hyrtle. Cops didn't worry so much about preserving evidence at fatal crash scenes, and the rest of us didn't seem to worry so much about wearing safety gear when operating chainsaws. And when that 5-cent deposit on beverage containers you become so accustomed to paying under the New York State bottle bill was first put into effect, and when Grand Island's Jimmy Arias was near the peak of his pro tennis career, ranked 9th in the world, he reached the semifinals of the U.S. Open, which was won for the 5th time by, well, who else back then but Jimmy Connors. His 100th singles tournament victory, which would also turn out to be his last Grand Slam title in his storied career, and it came this week in 1983 when it was all news to you.
Those shorts are back in, Patrick. The short shorts. Yeah.
Pretty shorts.
Yep. Well, here's the answer to this week's News to You pop quiz. We asked if you recognize this major medical facility as it appeared while under construction this week 40 years ago. In 1983, it's Building A of Buffalo General Hospital, which opened 3 years later. The 16-story tower was a height of more than 200 feet. Today ranks as Buffalo's 20th tallest building.